Daytona USA Championship Circuit Edition is released on November 14, 1996 for Sega Saturn. That was the PAL version, whereas the North American version is released just a week later, which is the one we will be taking a look at. But this game almost didn't happen. Here's a little history. 2 years ago, Sega AM3 just done releasing Sega Rally Championship for the arcade, and then a year later, they were able to release a great port onto the console. It was around the same time where Sega was planning to port another arcade title. Indy 500 is an arcade racer in 1995 based on the famous motorsport IndyCar, aka IRL, aka CART. Anyone remember the split? No? Anyway, Indy 500, the arcade game, was meant to be the next home conversion, but unfortunately, and I'm not making this up, the high demand from fans resulted in Sega changing their mind. It makes sense since everyone were not happy with the inferior launch title, and thus Sega changed their mind and began working on another Daytona USA game. So that's the short history of Daytona USA Championship Circuit Edition. No need to thank me. Anyway, CCE works as what you expected. You pick a track, pick your car, and win the race. Yada yada yada, you know the drill. The element of Daytona USA still remain intact, so longtime fans will be no stranger to this product. All elements such as UI, the cars along with the surroundings really give you enough amount of Daytona vibe. Since it's a different game compared to the original, which was Rush, here Sega were able to make some changes for the better. First of course is the graphics, which I really thank Sega for fixing it. In the original, the game stutters at 20 frames per second, making the experience really bad to sit through. But here, there's none of those problems as it runs at a steady 30 frames per second. Not only it looks good for my eyes, but also making the game more enjoyable than it used to be. The texture doesn't look too blurry anymore, and the polygons are increased by few times than the original Saturn, which I will gladly take. Everything looks much more enhanced compared to predecessor for your viewing pleasure, and with the frame rate being much more consistent, playing the game will be quite a cakewalk, considering your input will be more responsive unlike the other one. Yes, there are still graphical hiccups here and there, like the constant pop-in, but the draw distance this time is much manageable than the other one, so I will give credit to that. The draw distance is not a deal breaker, not for me at least. The graphic is a big improvement, and frankly the only good aspect, as the rest are hit or miss. Due to the complexity of the console, I guess some factors have to be changed as well. The vibrant atmosphere of Daytona itself is basically watered down. There's less excitement around the surroundings due to the game being a little different. In the arcade version, the game is filled with bright colors to make your adrenaline rush, but here, it feels a little darker, making some attention to detail look obsolete. The next thing is the audio, which is the main reason people love the original arcade. When you look at the title screen, your heart will be singing along the lyrics out as well. But guess what? Someone have to ruin it. Apparently, some fans were upset with the original tunes, saying it is quote-unquote inappropriate for a racing game, which leads to Sega to compose new music. What's wrong with you people? Sega requested the assistance of Richard Jacques and Junson Newick. Sounds familiar? Yup, That's the guy who composed the music for Sega Rally 2 and Outrun 2 SP. So one could imagine, this will be a good thing, right? Right? Spoiler, not really. The new music, if you could call it, is average. You know what? Average is an understatement, but saying bad will be too harsh. The soundtrack doesn't do a good job to make you pump up. What makes Daytona, like I said, a masterpiece is the ability of the music to attract your attention. The lyrics, the melody, the beats makes this a fantastic experience. Something the Championship Circuit Edition failed to do. Daytona USA is based off NASCAR, and in an attempt to capture the audience of the motorsport, they make the music very American. There's no sense of energy, nor there's any signs of enthusiasm that makes you want to go fast beyond the checkpoint. The lyrics doesn't feel interesting, and it certainly doesn't want to make you sing along with it. The song is there to just, I don't know, ruin your mood, cause it sure did that to me. Despite Sega attempting to add another layer of flavor, it falls flat right on your face. I'm okay with the developer trying to make a different taste, but it's a risky decision. Anyway, I think I spent too much time rambling on music. Moving on. The gameplay is self-explanatory. The 3 tracks return along with 2 new courses. There's a city which doesn't have city at all, and national park. Alongside 8 cars, each with specific stats ranging from grip, acceleration, and maximum speed. Different cars will provide different way to control them, and you have to come up with different maneuver tactics to tame the beast. Do you want speed but less grip? Do you want better drive off each corner? It's up to you, but there is one glaring problem. The main problem comes from steering the car. Coming right off from Daytona starting, you will notice immediate difference, and not for the good reason. The cars here feel awkward and sometimes janky. What I mean is that you are not able to utilize the full potential of the car itself, as it is hindered by the mediocre control. It usually occurs when you are turning or drifting, and that's when the game reveals its biggest weak point. Upon turning, your car seems to lose all of the controls and doesn't seem to follow your input. You have the tendency to slide all over the place and lose control rather quickly. Like, look at this. I'm going around National Park Speedway through this corner, then I turn too much and there I go, sliding towards the wall. It happens on other tracks as well, where the car decides to swerve around uncontrollably. I think I know why. During the development of Life Cycle, Sega AM3 tries to use Sega Rally as a benchmark while making CCE. Of course, it doesn't work that way. CCE as a whole is a promising game, but for every step of improvement, there's also step of relegation. I like the improved graphics, but man, they gotta take away the good controls. But wait, this is not the end. On January 24th, 1997, Sega continues with yet another attempt to improve on Daytona USA port. Daytona USA Circuit Edition is a Japanese version of CCE, but with a twist. First up is the graphics, which reduces the amount of pop-in while making it run at a smoother frame rate. They also rework on the texture of the surrounding to make the draw distance look better for the eyes of the players. If you compare both side by side, you would see a little difference. They didn't stop here though. Remember when I complained about the new music? Well, look like Sega regret their decision as they included all of the tracks from the original arcade version into the disc itself, but also adding some remixes. Daytona! Thank you, I will take that. You know what's perfect? The controls. Oh my Daytona. It's better here. The car doesn't slide all over the place, Sega Rally style, but instead resemble closer to the arcade version. It might not be the authentic experience, but the controls here are faithful enough to be considered good. And finally, aside from split screen multiplayer, if you have any friends anyway, they went as far to include Link Battle, which is very cool. You can also change the time of the day for each tracks to immerse yourself in the different aesthetic. The entirety of Circuit Edition, you could say, is a passionate project where Sega attempts to fix all of the damage of CCE, and I guess it works. But wait, there's one more. A year later, Sega re-released the game as Daytona USA CCE Netlink Edition. And I thought Rayforce's name is already bad enough. Anyway, it's basically Circuit Edition but released in North America. Not that it really matters considering the Japanese version doesn't have any Japanese text. So yeah, that's all to it for the remaining ports of Daytona on Saturn. Championship Circuit Edition improves on the previous version but also makes it even worse as well. Circuit Edition is an effort to fix the problem, but it's already too late. At this moment, Nintendo 64 was released and PlayStation 1 continues to dominate the market, and Sega misses out on another time extension of an opportunity. In the end, CCE and CE are not bad, and I highly recommend you to check it out. But wait, we are not done yet, as we have one more port on Sega and Debra consoles.